Back in the 1700s, or even before that, there were two armies fighting each other, and one army conquered the other bunch. And in that particular era of history, they didn't occupy the conquered countries like we do now. They would take the conquered people back to their land, sort of like they did in Babylon. So they're marching along in chains and shackles, this defeated people. They're discouraged and downcast, defeated, except for one man. Although he was chained and shackled, marching along, he didn't seem to look worried a bit. Well-built man, and the man in front of him looked around and saw him and said, "Don't you realize we're in big trouble?" And the big man leaned down and whispered and said, "Don't worry, man. I'm a blacksmith. I make chains." He said, "There ain't no chain I can't get out of." So I don't know how he would have said this back then, but he said, "Be cool." Well, they got to their dungeon and they threw him in there and locked the doors. And as the soldiers backed away from this building and the prisoner's eyes adjusted to what little light there was, the old blacksmith starts looking that chain over link by link. Every chain has a weak link someplace. And even without his tools, he had a few tricks. And he came to one link after a minute or two and held it up to what little light there was, and he said, "Oh, no." And his friend said, "What?" He said, "Look at the marks on that link." He said, "Yeah." I said, "Those are my initials." He said, "I made these chains." And he said, "Nobody gets out of my chains, not even me." Well, we get ourselves in a mess, and the typical human response is to cover up, lie about it, blame somebody else. But if we're honest, every one of us somewhere along the line has to say, "Oh no, those are my initials. I got myself into this mess." And God has made us real good chain makers. We can't get out by ourselves. We need a bolt cutter. We need a blowtorch. Spiritually speaking, we need a savior. Hear the words of the preacher still ringing in your ears. You want to hide your face. You try to hold back the tears. Jesus is calling. He's reaching out to you. Something keeps you there, seated in the pew. It's those chains of yesterday, binding you from moving on to a better time and way. God can break all your chains of yesterday. The devil, he don't like it. He don't want you to be free. He'll try every way to postpone your release. For many years you've let him rule, and he's told you what to do. Can't you see the devil's got a ball and chain on you? And it's those chains of yesterday, binding you from moving on to a better time and way. God can break all your chains of yesterday. God can break all your chains of yesterday. Well, I'll ask you the same thing I'd ask if I'd be in a prison chapel. Do you believe that?